And
it's upsetting.
The problem is it's no longer the Americans, because the Financial Action Task Force has created 40 recommendations. Those recommendations are not international law. A lot of those recommendations that they're making are contrary to the Constitution of South Africa and the constitutions of other countries within the region. And right now we've got our parliamentarians looking at the recommendations put forward by the Financial Action Task Force, and they're going to be forced to make laws that are contrary to the South African Constitution to please laws made unilaterally by our colonizers, but not made by international law. That doesn't make sense.
I want to disrupt you about drugs.
Just 2 seconds. Sure. I just wanted to say something. So you have African bankers signing up to these Financial Action Task Force regulations, knowing very well that the greatest crash of the banking system was caused by American and European banks in what was the greatest fraud, the greatest predicate crimes that crashed the banking system and lost the world over $40 trillion in 2008.
Greed.
And even though our bankers know that, they know that not a single European bank was blacklisted. Not a single European financial system was blacklisted for money laundering and predicate crimes.
Reckless lending.
They know that the terrorists all across the world are utilizing American weapons. They are utilizing American money. That money is moved through the European banking system. Not a single American bank has ever been blacklisted by the Financial Action Task Force. We know that Glencore right now bribed senior members of different governments all across the African continent, including South Africa. But today, Glencore's accounts have not been closed. Their assets have not been forfeited. Their assets have not been seized. There is no investigation on them. There is no sanctioning of Glencore by the Financial Action Task Force, the Americans, and anybody else. We know Glencore funds terrorists and rebels in Congo and other places. We know this.
These are facts.
These are facts. But they have never been blacklisted together with the Anglo-America that was causing deaths in Sierra Leone for diamonds with De Beers. But they've never been blacklisted. But our bankers, black bankers, people with PhDs, people with master's degrees will go and accede and sign these FATF regulations made by these criminal countries that enslaved us, that continue to take money out of Africa through companies that are holding on to what they took during colonialism in what was a crime against humanity. And you ask yourself, what idiots do we have right now? Go on to 702. Listen to what Lisecha Ganyako is saying. Listen to what
the governor of the Reserve Bank.
Governor of the Reserve Bank of South Africa is saying. Listen to what Sim Shabalala from Standard Bank is saying. Useless information that South Africa must comply and conform to regulations made unilaterally by our colonizers to make us less competitive, making rules that don't apply to them, and they're going to apply it in the banking system of South Africa. They will close Gupta bank accounts for allegations in the media.
Allegations and reputational damage.
Glencore was found guilty.
No reputational damage.
It was found guilty. It admitted to these. But Glencore's accounts are not closed, but Gupta accounts were closed.
Iqbal
Segunjalo, they tried to close the accounts. Iqbal Survey went to the Equality Court. And I asked myself, what idiots do we have?
Maybe they're
as
not
black
idiots.
people in the system?
Maybe they're not idiots.
But if they're not idiots, why would you apply laws on your own people?
It means they're not serving their people. Maybe they're not their people.
That is scary. Because if black people have black people, like you're saying, who believe that they're part of a colonial apartheid banking system, that they must make rules that stop black people from transacting and flowing of money, and they arbitrarily close bank accounts, what they do to Zimbabweans who are on the American sanctions list, without being tried, without going to court, their bank accounts are closed. Zimbabwean billionaires have got their bank accounts closed just because the Americans put them on illegal sanctions. Yet they never went to court. They were not found guilty with anything. And this is the laws that we are being asked, the South African Parliament is being asked to make by the Financial Action Task Force. They're saying you should be able to confiscate any proceeds of any account that is deemed to either money launder or deemed to be funding terrorism. They even go further to say...
Deemed.
They're saying to South Africa must
Not
make...
proven beyond reasonable doubt.
The recommendations say that you must also make laws in a country that when people, banking executives, banking workers, and banking directors flag an account for money laundering, funding terrorism, or funding the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, if they so suspect and they flag that account and they give information illegally, they give information outside the procedures of the bank, they give information outside the constitution of the South African law, those people should be protected by a law that the South African government or any other government must create to protect them for leaking such information and for flagging an account, even if it is eventually discovered that the flagging was wrong and there's no evidence to prove that there was money laundering. So they're asking our countries to make laws that are contrary to the laws. They say that politically exposed persons, you must identify through a banking system politically exposed persons. So this is a person who's doing business with government, but the black ones, because Anglo-America is not considered as politically exposed. Glencore is not considered as politically exposed. What is this other coal company? All the coal companies, the 7 of them in South Africa that belong to Western companies are not politically exposed. But the moment it's a Gupta, the moment it's a South African businessman who's got relationships, black businessman who's got relationships with the South African government, he must be considered as a politically exposed person. His account must be monitored. There must be permission acquired from the directors of the bank, these racist banks that have created laws through the Reserve Bank Act to ensure, and the Reserve Bank registrar, to ensure that there can never be black banks. They're the ones that must sit and decide whether they can open a bank account for the politically exposed person. And they can arbitrarily decide not to open an account for that person. And they will monitor his account and the funds that go. That is contrary to the Constitution of South Africa that says everybody is equal and there should be no discrimination. People must be treated with equality and they're innocent till proven guilty. Investigations must happen on people's accounts even if they haven't committed a crime. That is contrary to the Bill of Human Rights or the Universal Bill of Human Rights and the Constitution of South Africa. Those are the laws that currently your government and your parliament are being forced to make by the Financial Action Task Force, which is not an international organization, which is not a multilateral institution, which is an organization created by the biggest criminals, the biggest thieves, the biggest money launderers, and the biggest funders of terrorism and proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. That is clearly problematic.